You guys have been waiting for this video for a while. The 2023 rookie wide receiver ranking video. Now, my process is pretty simple. I watch football all year long. I watch college football, I watch pro football. I have an opinion on what wide receivers I like, but then I do about 10 to 12 hours of, and I'm talking 10 to 12 hours straight, of watching footage and film, YouTube footage, any footage I can get my hands on. And I do this like around January. I've got my opinions already, but the cram session and the constant film watching, it makes you say to yourself, man, I kind of feel like I missed on this player. Man, this guy looks better than I thought. I mean, I watch college football, but watching these highlights over and over, I'm unaware of how much I love this guy until this moment in time. And so my main ranking and order kind of comes from that January sesh. But then right now, which was last night, I'm on like 4 hours sleep. I spent about 10 to 12 straight hours watching nothing but footage on every guy, one after the other. And I'm talking like 12 wide receivers deep, just to make sure there wasn't some gem I wasn't watching, like example, Parker Washington or A.T. Perry or Marvin Mims Jr. Like I went straight down, 12, 13, 14 deep. And I'll tell you, I struggled the entire night with my top 4 wide receivers, not picking the top 4. These are the top 4. I'm going to rank the entire, 10 or 12 wide receivers at the end of this, but I struggled not so much with Zay Flowers being in the top 3 or 2. He was kind of 4 the whole time, but I love him. Like in the right spot, he's going to be good. If he measures in heavier or taller, probably won't be taller, but if he can put on some LBs, he could climb into the 3 or 2. He really could. Zay's an amazing player in the right spot. Kind of reminds me of like Tyreek Hill. He's smaller. We'll go over Zay in a minute, but Zay Flowers is really good. But where I struggled, admittedly, and this is no shame, this is that, okay, there's a lot of pros and cons to this entire wide receiver class. But what I came away with was that one moment I had Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, number 1. The next moment I had Quentin Johnston, who's got the most raw talent. He's DK Metcalf, but maybe better, maybe worse. We don't really know. There's a whole lot to factor in. Jordan Addison, smaller, but he doesn't look small on the field, and so you're confused by that when you're watching him play. You're like, he plays bigger than everybody keeps talking about him being the next Devontae Smith, which is not a bad thing, I might add. But everybody talks about how Jordan Addison's Devontae Smith small, and he could struggle at the next level because he's smaller. He's like 170 pounds, some people say. We'll see what he weighs in at, but he's so polished. I'm gonna break down my top 4 wide receivers and then give you the additional 6, 7, 8 guys in order. So this will be my all-encompassing top 10 to 12 wide receiver rookie video. But let me start off by saying something that's going to sound a little, bold to some people, and maybe a lot of people will shake their head and go, yeah, I agree with you. I've been thinking the same thing. Before I begin, I'm going to make this statement. What I learned most of all in January during the college season, but more so emphasized last night by watching 12 straight hours of footage of all these guys, with a heavy 6-7 hours just on these 4 right here. This wide receiver class doesn't hold a candle to last year's wide receiver class. This wide receiver class is good. It will produce 1 or 2 top 10, 15 wide receivers, but this wide receiver class is nowhere near as good is the Olave, Drake London, Christian Watson, and Garrett Wilson class. This class is about the RB. This RB class, the running back class, is as good, maybe better, or at least as good as last year's Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker class. The changing of the guard is definitely here at all positions. Some of these guys will swap out some of the older guys in go forward, redraft, and dynasty rankings. Make no mistake, these guys will be a part of this changing of the guard, but the running backs are where this draft class is strong. And I'm here to tell you that I'd rather have the 4 or 5 wide receivers from the 2022 class than probably all of these guys. But that doesn't mean they're not good. It doesn't mean they're not going to be impactful. It doesn't mean Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, or Quentin Johnston, or Jordan Addison, or Zay Flowers in the right spot can't be one of the top 8 wide receivers of the future. Maybe one is a top 6 wide receiver. Let's find out who it is. Let's dig into it. The Fantasy Football Show, the 2023 rookie wide receiver ranking video. It begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
I think I'm going to do a special little way of organizing all of this. And even though I've watched 12 hours of this stuff, I'm going to pull up the footage and watch each individual player for a few minutes and kind of spit out some random things that come to mind. I'm going to pull up Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba highlights, you can type it in YouTube. And I'm going to watch some footage right now. And I'm just going to describe to you like what I'm seeing and my process, because I want you to kind of get a feel of how this goes for me. Dynamic. He's getting the football handed to him. He's taking sweeps. He's to the outside. He's stiff arming guys. His route running is precise. His field awareness is second to none. This guy had a 1,600-yard record-breaking season at Ohio State. As a sophomore in 2021, this guy played 13 games and had a best single season record for wide receivers in the Big Ten, in Big Ten history, accumulating 1,606 yards, 9 TDs, and the QB rating when he was targeted was 141.8. This also included his monumental, historical Rose Bowl outing where he caught 15 passes for 347 yards. He had an unbelievable sophomore season. Last year as a junior in 2022, this past season, very, very disappointing. He played 3 games. He caught 4 passes and suffered through hamstring injury the entire season. And some say he could have returned to football at the tail end of the season, but he wanted to protect his draft value and get ready for the NFL draft. Understandable. And honestly, after a 2021 season where he had a historic Big Ten record, 1,600 yards, 9 TDs, on a team, let me say this, on a team that had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in the lineup. Do you understand what I'm saying right now? Let me repeat that. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were in the lineup, and this guy had the best season, not on the team or in team history, in Big Ten history with those two in there. And there's a report somewhere that Garrett Wilson said that Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the best wide receiver ever that he's ever played with. Something to that effect. I word for word, I don't remember the exact phrasing, to be honest with you, but it was something cool like that, right? I just can't leave that shoddy research on the table here. Let me find the exact quote here. So I'm doing you a service. Here we go. Jaxon is as good as I've ever seen. Probably the best I've ever seen, Wilson said Wednesday. I don't know what Wednesday this was. Jaxon is the most natural athlete I've ever seen. That's coming from Garrett Wilson. That's a pretty good compliment. Now, they're buddies, right? They played on the same team, so he's going to have nice things to say about him, but he overemphasized that. And it's just something nice to hear. Now, back to the footage on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. When I'm watching this guy play, let me give you a couple of negatives. He does not have top-end speed. There's times where he catches a football in a seam route, and he's like 4 steps ahead of 2 different defenders on each side, and they catch him like almost every time. They wrap him up. He almost like has that feel of when he catches the ball and somebody's chasing him. You know, when someone's chasing you, you slow down because you're like, oh my God, someone's behind me. And then they catch you and you're like, you get nervous. It almost looks like he's getting run down more often than not, when he should just not worry about who's next to him and just take off, and he doesn't. And Jamar Chase would do that. So if you think of a player that he doesn't mirror in terms of that explosion and that getting like shot out of a rocket going toward the end zone, that's Jamar Chase. He catches it. Jamar Chase just goes to the end zone. Jaxon Smith-Njigba catches the ball, and it's like, who's going to catch me? Let me stiff arm you. Let me try and maneuver out of it. And he does a great job doing that. But he gets caught way too easy, and he's catching the ball, and he's looking around, and he gets dragged down. When if he caught the ball and just kind of like, darted, maybe he'd get away. But there are a lot of wide receivers in the NFL that play football like this, and it's not something that would make him not be an elite player at the next level. It just means that he is doing a lot of his work in terms of like maneuvering through lanes of traffic as far as he can go. And I will say this, he gets more yardage than he should, and so much yardage after the catch, a lot of yak yards, and he's aggressive, and his spatial awareness, his field awareness, his vision, his ability to know where his feet are. He's kind of a magician on the field. And there are times where he can knife through and get 20 yards when another wide receiver would have got 5, even though he is, like I described, kind of like slowing down every time he catches the ball, and he's like looking around instead of just darting through an open seam. So the negatives are he does not have top end speed. If he ran a 4.5, it would be amazing. He could work on those things, right? Despite what Garrett Wilson said, what was it again? That he is the most natural athlete I've ever seen. I mean, he's not an elite, just absolutely magnificent, well-oiled machine athlete like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. He definitely feels more like now, don't take offense to this if you love Cooper Kupp, but he feels like Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp doesn't feel like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. He feels like this possession receiver, absolute gem. And just knowing the space around him, and just with a certain quarterback in right situation, carving up a defense, but in a way that's different than JJ, in a way that's different than a burner, right? So if Cooper Kupp can be the number one wide receiver, or he was, and Cooper Kupp can still, if you think, dance in the top 1 to 4, which I believe Cooper Kupp in 2023 could and will, then there's no reason to say a Jaxon Smith-Njigba can't be Cooper Kupp-like, even if he's not the most athletic player on the field. But it is always like a disappointing thing to be like, our number one wide receiver is not the most athletic wide receiver. Like when you say that, it kind of like puts a damper on it, right? But that's kind of what I feel about this class. I feel like this wide receiver class, like I talked at the beginning, is not the same as last year. It's nothing even close to it. Doesn't mean that we can't have a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football develop from this draft class, being Quentin Johnston, being Jordan Addison, being Jaxon Smith-Njigba, but we don't have the Garrett Wilson. We don't have somebody that has top end speed and all the intangibles like Garrett Wilson. We don't have Christian Watson, who's so raw but has all the qualities you want to become an electric, dominant wide receiver on every single level. Jordan Addison's got the size problem, but he's got amazing skill set. Quentin Johnston's the most DK Metcalf. It's almost like he's DK Metcalf's brother. And he's on the field. He's so raw, though. He can't run the entire route tree. He's got very limited route potential right now. He could learn all this, but he's just this massive target. His wingspan's like 2 people wide, and he's just going up and manhandling everybody around him, but he's got limitations. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is like Cooper Kupp good in terms of route running and precision and his spatial awareness, knowing where his body is, catching the ball and doing these spin routes around players and defenders in ways that he gets 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 yards when someone would always get 1 or 2 or 3. Catching a football, and we're talking about JSN right now, catching a football and about to take a hit, and he'll oftentimes, he does this more than any wide receiver I watched film on over the weekend. He'll catch a football when he's about to get leveled, and he'll fold and roll his body up so that he just barely like grazes against the defender, and he'll fall down and be down, but like he'll avoid a big hit. Like his awareness is 10 out of 10. Like Jaxon Smith-Njigba's awareness and vision, and this is the most important part, his understanding of the field and what's going on around him, where his feet are, knowing where the sideline is. He's falling out of bounds. His left foot needs to touch. Like he knows what to do at all times. That's what makes him so like he's magical. He's not an elite athlete on all levels, but he's magical at what he does. And so let me go back to the Jaxon Smith-Njigba footage. But just watching him right now, reacting to it. Okay, he's running routes. He's quick. He's not fast. He's quick. Open top end speed's not there. It's good enough. It's like, look, Jerry Rice wasn't exactly a burner, and he still had enough top end speed. He was game fast, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba is so quick. He's game fast, but he's not burning anybody. He's getting dragged down a lot, but he's getting dragged down after he gains 5 or 10, 15 yards that other wide receivers wouldn't have gained. So it's a confusing thing when you're watching him. You're like, he's getting tackled, he's getting chased down, but he got chased down after he made a play that someone else would have been tackled and wouldn't even gotten the position to get in that position. Stiff arms, awareness, unbelievable season. Hamstring injury, disappointing 2022. You're confused when you watch and look at everything and try and piece it together. He's my number one wide receiver in this draft class. Not that I'm ready to lock it in and that I won't waver. Like, example, if Quentin Johnston has an amazing combine and pro day and works out like a monster, my mind could be swayed. And I'm not trying to leave myself wiggle room to get out of, ranking one over the other. I'm not. This is just one of those, you guys know I take a hardline stance on things. This is one of those situations where it's too close and there's too many negatives and positives with all three of these wide receivers, Quentin Johnston, Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, and Jordan Addison, and even Flowers. There's so many pros and cons. It is one of those evolving situations, and it will continue. The landing spot will evolve my answer. The workouts and combines pro days will evolve my answer. And I'm letting you know up front that Quentin Johnston has a place as the number one wide receiver if the right things unfold for him. Jordan Addison has a place in terms of climbing to the number one. But as of this moment right now, given how amazing of a season we saw from Jaxon Smith-Njigba, given how many Cooper Kupp qualities this guy has, despite not having that top end speed, which he can work on. He can try and get faster. He's working at an NFL level. Oh my God, just watch him catch this pass right now, where it's like the ball's launched up. He's running and the defender's here and he literally puts his arm out and catches it on the other side of the defender. It's unbelievable. And then this other toe tap that he does, you've probably seen it. If you pull up any Jaxon Smith-Njigba highlight video, you're going to see it maybe at the top of each video, where he catches the ball out of bounds and he stretches his one leg over and just toe taps down. His awareness is unbelievable. He is my number one as of this moment wide receiver. And if I had to put a potential comp on him, I'd say Cooper Kupp, because I don't see the other qualities like JJ or Chase. He doesn't have those qualities. It's a weird comp. It's a weird look. It's a weird feeling to have this guy number one. I'm not going to lie. It feels weird because I'm telling you he's not the best athlete, and that's such an uncomfortable way to rank somebody. But we've seen these players, these not the best athlete in the world, become an elite wide receiver, a slot wide receiver. And that's where Cooper Kupp lives and where Cooper Kupp dominates. So being a slot wide receiver used to, back in the day, be like, oh, he's limited, right? He's a slot wide receiver. Those aren't the best wide receivers in the National Football League. Now they are. You're a slot wide receiver. You don't get double teamed as much. That means you move around all over the field. Different guys covering you constantly. You can manipulate space in a spread out defensive game plan. You can burn man coverage because you'll be lined up on mismatches a lot of the time in that slot. So as a slot wide receiver, if he remains a slot wide receiver, which it would be dumb to not put him in the slot, he's going to have the same kind of success at the NFL level as he had in college, even if you want to say there's some limitations that maybe he outgrows, maybe he gets better. Some players can play better at the pro level than the college level, and you look back at their college film and you're like, wow, they just look like Tom Brady, Cooper Kupp. There are so many times that you see a wide receiver and you're like, okay, I like that wide receiver. And then later on, or running back or quarterback, and later on you're like, wow. You gotta be open-minded to that. And what are the intangibles that make somebody capable of growing and becoming so much better than they were in college? I think out of all the players here, Jaxon Smith-Njigba and Quentin Johnston have that ability. I think Jordan Addison kind of is what he is, and he can be amazing as long as his size is capable of allowing him to stay healthy and become not get shut down in press coverage and things like that. Quentin Johnston, he's untapped. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, while he's untapped in a different way, because this guy's raw and could develop and get a route tree and be able to run a whole route tree, and then all of a sudden just opens up a whole new game we've never even seen or sniffed. This guy right here is just so smart and aware. What's he going to learn? What's he going to learn that he didn't already know? That's what I think of Jaxon Smith-Njigba, my number one wide receiver in this draft class as of this moment. Now on to Jordan Addison footage, and watching this guy, this is such a tough thing for me, because when I watch him, he's the most polished, he's the most smooth, he's the most, I think of A.J. Brown when I watch him play. I think of Corey Davis, though, as well. You know, because when you watch Corey Davis coming out of college, you got that vibe like this guy could be an absolute monster. And Corey Davis at times was a good wide receiver in the NFL, but he was never elite. He never rose to the level he could have maybe rose to in the minds of scouts as we watch this guy. So that's kind of why I'm cautious with Jordan Addison. At first, he was my number one wide receiver. He's bounced back and forth between 3, 1, and 2. And when I watched this 12 hours of footage, he bounced around. It wasn't like he fell off. Okay, yeah, that's why. He was 1 for about 2 or 3 hours. He was 3. Then he went to 2. And I'm being honest with my process because I want you guys to know how tough it is sometimes, even for somebody that's been doing this for 20 straight years. I've been scouting for 20 straight years. No, not from a side job gig like I'm some a guy that goes to work all day and then comes in and tries to look at this stuff and do it as a hobby. Literally, for 20 straight years, I've been doing NFL scouting and combine coverage and rookie coverage, and was on the longest fantasy football radio show in the world for 19 straight years. Longest running show ever in fantasy football history. I was a part of it 19 years doing this stuff. It was on CBS and NBC Sports Radio. It kept bouncing back and forth. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to scouting wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. And when I watch Jordan Addison, I'm watching him on my screen right now. When I watch this kid catch footballs in a smooth and precise way and pull it in and look strong, I don't even see an undersized wide receiver right now. We're watching him catch footballs against college players, so smaller players than NFL players, but I don't feel like he looks undersized at all. But his knock is that he's Devontae Smith small. He's 6 foot, reportedly 175. I imagine he comes in a little heavier than that, but he probably doesn't want to, change his 40 time too much. But like he is a smaller guy, but when you watch footage of him, he doesn't look small. And so it's a little deceiving. And he looks strong. He looks very, very aggressive. He looks very good in space. He looks very dominant with the space around him. But when I do watch him, I do have concerns of him becoming Corey Davis. But then all of a sudden I go, you know what? This could be the next AJ Brown. Now I'm watching him right now. He just grabs the ball and just, it's like the way he pulls it in, it's so smooth, and you know he's going to catch it. And the way he's so athletic when he turns it upfield and in stutter steps finds the right space. He knows how to navigate like a magnet to the right plane, the right amount of space, the right trajectory toward the end zone. And he had such an amazing sophomore year in 2021, playing 14 games and having 100 receptions for 15.9 yards per catch. And a monster 17 touchdowns. 17 touchdowns this guy had as a sophomore. Nearly 1,600 yards. Then he entered the transfer protocol following the 2021 year after being awarded the award for the nation's best wide receiver, which he was. Why did he transfer? He said he was trying to find himself. It was a little bit confusing. These are the things that worry me. Is like he wanted to transfer after being voted the nation's top wide receiver. He said he was looking for a great coach, trying to figure himself out, something to that degree. And in 2022, this past season in Southern California, he played 11 games, 59 receptions for 875, only 8 TDs. And it was kind of a letdown, a disappointment. I mean, he played very, very well at times, of course, but 875 yards and 8 TDs compared to his 2021 season, where he pulled in nearly 1,600 yards and 17 scores. It was just like kick to the nads. So you look at it and you're like, okay, well, he dropped off significantly. He transferred for a weird reason, in my opinion. I mean, he obviously wanted to, figure himself out, and that's fine. I like him a lot. Again, he's been my number 1. He's been my 3. He's been my 2. Right now, I'm going to rank him number 2 because of his amazing route running, his smooth and decisive ability to cut and make good decisions and literally just knife up a defense. I really like Jordan Addison. His 17 TDs cannot go unnoticed, even though he dropped the 808 touchdowns the year after. But 17 touchdowns is absolutely unreal. Just unbelievable. And I'm not going to overlook that. I'm going to say this guy's my number 2 wide receiver. But I struggled a ton with this next guy, who is Quentin Johnston. And Quentin Johnston has the ability to become either the next DK Metcalf or better, or the next, I would say the best comparative would be like Kevin White. You know, everyone thought Kevin White could be an absolute monster, and he ended up busting. So, but when you watch this guy run a route, like the crazy part is DK is a lot bigger than him in terms of size, right, or in terms of weight. But this guy's 6'4", but he's 215. Jaxon Smith-Njigba could run a 4.5. But if he runs like a 4.4 at all, it's going to be great. Addison runs a 4.39, 4.4. Quentin Johnston runs about a 4.4, which is great for his size. He's 215, but he's 6'4". And when I watch footage of him, like right now, I see DK Metcalf. He looks as big as DK Metcalf, but he's not nearly as big as DK Metcalf in terms of weight, but he looks it. And at 6'4", his wingspan's just insane, and his ability to run a good route is ultra impressive. He doesn't have a big route tree. He can't run every route yet, but he can learn that, right? His ability to go get a jump ball is second to none in college football right now. Everybody's enamored by this guy. He could be the number one wide receiver drafted in the 2023 NFL draft. Watching him, I'm going to replay some footage and just kind of react again to some of his routes and such. Ability to stop, ability to just shove a defender down. Doesn't give up on a play, doesn't just run like a route as a big guy and just catch it and fall to the ground. You know, he's an absolute monster, and when he gets the ball, he's angry, he's aggressive, he's trying to get to the end zone every single time he catches the football. It takes 2 or 3 guys to tackle him. The first guy never tackles him. The first guy can't tackle him. The first guy can only try and slow him down so the next guy can come try and wrap him up so the next guy can come and pull him down. But his ability to grab the football and start matriculating himself down the field, it's not like he catches it and just starts going forward. He's amazing, like left to right. Like he is as good, if not better, than every wide receiver on this list and below at the side-to-side movements, trying to, I'm getting a little excited there, trying to move everybody. Where's my football? Grabbing the ball and literally saying, get out of my way, I'm going this way. Get out of my way, I'm going that way. He's literally trying to navigate the field left to right to find an opening to just barrel through. So it's not like some wide receivers, there's a couple on this list that are tall, bigger wide receivers. They grab the ball and then they just fall down like a gentle giant. This guy grabs the ball and says, where's the hole? Left to right. Get out of my way. I'm knifing through there. It's amazing. He's a very, very good but raw talent that could emerge into something extremely special, or he could become the next Kevin White. He could become the next Justin Blackmon. Remember Justin Blackmon? David Terrell. Why are a lot of these guys Chicago Bears? Mike Williams. Oh, wait. He's still in the league. He's unbelievable. And I'm really excited about Quentin Johnston. And again, just so you know, he has been number one on my list throughout this 12-hour process of watching footage and film over and over and over and trying to find different things I haven't noticed is the whole point of my second video sesh, is to literally just immerse myself and say, what did I miss? And honestly, I didn't feel like he was number one as much the first time around. The second time around, I'm watching it and I'm immersing myself in the footage and in the size of the man and the raw ability. But there's a danger here putting him one, because, you know, he's got to go to the right spot. His coaching and his quarterbacking is going to be vital to his success. So he's got more of a risk factor of falling into a bad spot. If he goes to the Ravens and the Ravens retain Lamar Jackson, get out of here. It's going to be an unbelievable match made in heaven. He goes to Washington or some place where he can't get delivered consistent footballs, then he's going to fall and fizzle away and not create anything for himself. Not that any of these guys would survive in a bad spot, I suppose, but like Jaxon Smith-Njigba feels like the most capable of, I think, becoming what I believe he's probably going to become no matter what. Although he's going to survive more in the slot. Maybe a team brings him in and doesn't put him in the slot. There's risk all around. Size for Jordan Addison, size for Zay Flowers, we'll get to in a minute. But I do believe we are looking at the top three being Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston. You could put Quentin Johnston almost tied for number 2 with Jordan Addison for me. Now I'm gonna pull up Zay Flower footage and watch this and react to it. This guy is so electric, and what I love about him is he does a lot of this like it's almost like showboating, but not to showboat, to actually like create space. It's almost like he stutter steps and does a lot of like jump cutting, but does a lot of like shaking and baking. He gets separation like no other. He does a lot of this. It's like he catches the ball and then kind of just sizes up the defender and just goes like, which way are we gonna go, bro? And he does it a lot. So he'll catch the ball, turn around, look at the defenders and say, okay, let me try and figure out which direction I want to go. He's not one of those guys that just catches it, turns it upfield, and gets hit. So there's some Tyreek Hill to his game. That's what Tyreek Hill does. Catches the ball, turns around, decides which way does he want to juke someone. Whose jockstrap does he want to leave on the field? I like him. I think Tyreek Hill's a great comp for him. A great comp for him. I don't know if he'll become Tyreek Hill good. I'm not saying that. But when he catches the ball, he's catching it like Tyreek. He's smaller like Tyreek. He's quick like Tyreek. His 40 time, let me see if I can pull up his 40 time. Flowers is probably going to run a 4.35, 4.37. He's 5'9", which is short. That's unbelievably short, 182 pounds. But hey, Jordan Addison's 175. So he's bigger than Jordan Addison in terms of bulk and strength maybe. But I love this kid. He's phenomenal. As a sophomore in 2020, we'll start there. 10 games, 48 catches, 835, average of 17.4 pop, and 9 TDs. And, his junior year, 2021, 12 games, 44 catches, 745, and 5 touchdowns. As a senior in 2022, he played 12 games, 78 catches, 1077 and 12 TDs. So he finally got over that 1,000-yard mark and had a really good 2022. I like this kid a lot. I like this kid an awful lot. His 4.3 speed is going to separate him. Given that he's such a good receiver, given he's such a good shake and bake type player, it's not like the speed is the only attribute. This isn't a fast guy that we're going to try and translate into a wide receiver. He is a very, very Tyreek Hill-esque kind of player. Did I waver with Boutte and want to put this LSU potential electric wide receiver, undervalued wide receiver on this list a little higher? I did, but it is between Boutte and Flowers. It's between Boutte, Flowers, and Rashee Rice and Josh Downs. I like Boutte a lot. I think Boutte's got a lot of upside. LSU wide receivers are always so good. Ohio State wide receivers are always so good. They're well coached. They're super NFL ready. Boutte had he's got an awesome name too. How fun will it be to be like Boutte dropping we could come up with all kinds of stuff for Boutte. He's 205 pounds. He's 6 foot. He runs probably a 4.4, probably a 4.4 flat. He was a 4-star recruit by ESPN and a 5-star graded wide receiver by 24/7 Sports. In 2020, 10 games, guy had 45 receptions, 735, and 5 TDs. As a sophomore, Boutte played in 6 games, 35 catches, 503, 9 TDs. As a junior, 11 games, 48 catches, 538, and 2 TDs. The problem with him is he's never had like a monster year. So it's hard for me to rank him above Flowers. It's hard for me to rank him really above Josh Downs and Rashee Rice, who I have slightly ahead of him. When he hasn't had a big year. He hasn't delivered ever. He looks good. He looks fluid. Looks efficient. He's got good speed, good quickness, smooth route running, very NFL ready looking, but never had a big year. Never had a big year. So like, how do you put him, up there when he hasn't had a monster performance yet? He had 2 500-yard campaigns and 1 700-yard campaign. Now, given in 2020, he did have that 3 TD, 14 reception, 308-yard game against, I believe, Ole Miss. It looked phenomenal. But 700 yards, 500 yards, 500 yards, you need more than that to rank inside my top 5. But I'm excited, and I'm trying to let you know how I feel about him, that there's potential. Josh Downs, who I rank slightly ahead of him, had 1,000 yards and 11 TDs in 2022. Very good wide receiver that runs probably, I would guess, about a 4.3, 4.35. That's a pretty good time. He's a 5'10", 175-pound guy. A little smaller because he's not 6 foot 175 or 6 foot 180. He's 5'10", 175. So I like him a lot, but the size is a little bit of an issue for me, but he still ranks higher than Boutte. For now. Boutte could climb. Like, I just emphasized Boutte before I even talked about Downs, because I want people to know how much I like him when I watch him. Visually, the eye test Boutte passes, so I wanted to emphasize how much I liked him. But until we see that production or something at the combine that helps kind of like connect the dots, Boutte is going to be ranking slightly below Downs, who's more proven, and Rashee Rice, who I think is a very, very nice wide receiver. 6 foot, 200 pounds out of SMU. 10 touchdowns, 96 receptions, and 1355 in his 2022 season. So a lot of production. I like Rashee Rice a lot. Marvin Mims Jr. is probably next, I suppose. Jalen Hyatt is interesting. A lot of people like this guy, Jalen Hyatt. Let's pull up some of his footage and start watching some Jalen Hyatt footage and react. There's some about this guy that doesn't, I don't know. I like him a lot. I do. But when I watch him, he runs like this. Kind of puts his head out like he's running for the finish line, trying to reach over the. I can't get over it. All I see when this guy's running is this. He catches the ball, goes. I mean, he had a real productive season. Aside from, I can't get over. All I see is. Here, he caught the ball. Down the field he goes. I can't stop. I can't stop looking at that. Anyway, you know, I really like what I see out of Hyatt. He's 6 foot, but he's 180 pounds, so not a huge guy. 67 receptions, 1267, and 15 touchdowns. So you got a real productive year out of Tennessee. I like him. Someone tuck his head in. He's gonna get it knocked off. I do like him. He looks like a big body. He's lanky, but he's 6 foot. But like I said, he's kind of skinny. But he could put on that weight. That's not a big deal. I mean, he could be 192. You know, after his rookie year, I like him. He's good. He's a guy who could rise. Maybe he's taller than 6 foot. Maybe if they straighten him up a little bit, maybe 6'2", 6'3". He looks longer. He looks taller. He's making me want to sit up straight. These are my rankings for 2023 rookies, and they're evolving, and the combine and landing spots are going to affect them more than normal. I'm being very open and upfront about that, but for right now, even though I admittedly wavered throughout the entire night watching this 12 hours of footage and re-immersing myself in something that I do in January and something I do in late February, March 1, is re-immerse myself in it to see what I missed. And of course, watch the guys during the season. But Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, you are my number one wide receiver in 2023. Jordan, Addison, you are the number 2, but you're so close to Quentin Johnston. He's nipping at your heels, and Zay Flowers, you get the 4 spot. The rest of you, it is Josh Downs, it is Rashee Rice, Kayshon Boutte, Marvin Mims Jr., Jalen Hyatt. Stand up straight, Jalen. Especially when they measure you, pal. You want to be taller, okay? A.T. Perry, Cedric Tillman, Peter Washington. Those guys are kind of, you know, once you get past, I would say, Boutte, it's like Mims Jr., that's the brother of Denzel Mims. A little bit better than his brother, it seems, but who knows? I don't know if that's going to translate. Boutte is like the end of the line. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th wide receiver, Boutte, is about where my cutoff is of, are these guys going to be really, really good, or are they going to be a serviceable wide receiver at the NFL level? Appreciate you all. Look for my quarterback, my 2023 quarterback ranking video next. I appreciate you all. Get on over to The Fantasy Football Show fantasyfootballshow.com and get your year-round fantasy football rankings, bold predictions, trade calculators. All these rookies are already mixed into the year-round rankings that I have on the fantasyfootballshow.com. I've got super rookie rankings, which are my popular rankings I created and coined in this industry that have the sophomores and rookies only. It kind of helps you get a dynasty mindset, and people love them. They're my most popular rankings. When I created these many years ago, they're sophomores and rookies only. And it just gives you such a good dynasty feel as to who the future is going to be. And then I have my rookie rankings, and I have all these rookies mingled into the overall redraft and dynasty rankings and my top 200 year-round rankings. I don't have a draft kit. What's a draft kit? A draft kit's for people that don't have year-round rankings or a full-blown site. Your boy Smitty has it all. And I've also got a Dynasty channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Dynasty channel, youtube.com/Dynasty Fantasy Football. But you can also find that on my main YouTube page. If you go to my main homepage on YouTube and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see all my channels that I'm involved in. These two channels will be down there. Even if you're on that channel, you can scroll down to the bottom and find this channel. I'm on Spotify, thefantasyfootballshow.com. Get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.